Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Digital Edge podcast. And today we have a little bit of a special episode. It is number 50 of the
Wow.
Digital Edge podcast. So thanks, everyone, for watching and tuning in and keeping us going. We really appreciate it. It's been super journey so far and a lot of fun discussing many relevant and timely digital transformation topics.
Yeah,
So
that's a true milestone. And today we are going to talk about data center.
yes, we're continuing our streak of controversial topics a little bit, right? It's been in the news a lot, and a lot of different viewpoints and some controversy around it about what this means. If you want to get us into it, Françoise.
Yes. So actually, what triggered this episode was the statement from Jeff Bezos a few days ago about the importance of data centers, stating that actually we should prioritize data centers over human consumption, and also put an article in French for our French audience, especially as we have a heat wave in Europe. And I was saying like the data center lobbyists are asking Europe to prioritize AI before the climate. So there was a bit of controversy and buzz on that.
Right.
So what I did was, to look at facts and figures and some of the numbers. Just to look at, there are two main consumptions from data centers. One is electricity and the other one is water. Starting with electricity, it looks like today data center electricity consumption is about 1.5% of global electricity demand, which makes it, between the consumption of France or UK, between these two countries, and it's expected to grow up to 3% in 2030, which would get it to the level of the annual consumption of Japan that we have today. And as we see, there are more and more data centers being built and very large scale, and you see that it's really big numbers in terms of electricity consumption. Sorry. I just also showed a graph on where it's being built, and if we look at the US, you see that they are almost everywhere, but of course some concentration in the West Coast, in the East Coast, in the South, and most of these data centers are being driven by some key players like Meta, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. So they are accounting for this growth, massive growth of data centers in the US.
Yeah, I mean, as we see, it's a relatively small group of companies
Yeah.
that really drive all of this, right?
Yes, absolutely. And if, of course, the problem with data centers, I mean, if you look at the impact on global electricity consumption, you can say, okay, this is still small, but what is really driving some of the protests is the fact that sometimes it's very concentrated. I mean, if you look at Ireland, it's 22% of electricity demand that today is going to those data centers, and obviously, when it's very localized, it can have huge impact, on the grid. We'll see it also about water. So where we see that there are some protests and challenges, it's more about the fact that it's very concentrated in some areas, and obviously it's draining a lot of the resources, water and electricity. So it can have a very deep and negative impact on some local communities. Just to continue on that, for water consumption, it's trillions of liters or billions of gallons, however you want to measure it. But again, it requires a lot of water because it's being used to basically for cooling the systems.
Yep.
And you see some it's basically consuming almost what a city like New York City is consuming daily. So it's that much water that is needed today or in the near future. So we see that it's not neutral in terms of the resources, in terms of electricity and water that is being consumed by this industry. Any reaction to that before we we
Yeah,
talk
I
about
think
what could be done about that?
Yeah, I think there's many different angles to the topic, right? I mean, you have like these. It's very political, right? You have the proponents of it, and you have the people that are against it, and both of them are like on the extreme of advocating for their perspectives. And I, typically like taking an objective and transparent approach to making decisions, right? And one thing that is unfortunate a little bit, right? And it's normal, I guess, but that the viewpoints and the data is typically presented in a way that benefits the one or the other side, right? So I think it's very difficult to, for the person who's not involved in this to understand what the ultimate implications are. And I think the other point is like, okay, there's an investment in electricity and natural resources, basically, right? What's the flip side of that, right? What do we get out of that? Can we quantify that somehow to show that, hey, even though it costs this much electricity and water and land or whatever, it'll still be worthwhile as a net effect as a whole, right? And I think
that's
revealing
what
that
we
is
need to demonstrate, right?
right, exactly. And I think that would be interesting to get to an objective view on that, right? Beyond the political debate that really rages on this.
Yeah, I take your point. I think, as you said, what we see is the immediate impact of draining resources. And as you said, if the use of the data center, for example, help reduce oil consumption, that would be a benefit.
Right,
But
exactly.
as you said, it's hard to see the two sides of the equation at this stage, or to link that. So I think maybe that's the second part of our discussion, is that obviously this is draining resources, and there are a lot, and it's a very fast evolving domain, and everybody is looking at what could be solutions so that those impacts on water and electricity are reduced. So I'm just moving ahead. I looked at solutions, and I'm not going to go through the details, but we see that there is a lot of innovation, a lot of energy spent on thinking, how can we make this more efficient, or what are the ways to run data centers so that it's less draining resources. And as you see, some of these solutions are obviously coming to the market very shortly. Others might be a bit further down the line, or are not even maybe feasible or absolutely ready yet. So there is about a dozen. I picked a few from the most likely, or the most ready, to the more futuristics, and just wanted to have a quick run through. I mean, the first one is obviously to gain more efficiency about the processors. And NVIDIA obviously is releasing regularly some new chips and new technology to basically gain efficiency. And obviously that would mean that it would reduce the electricity consumption per query. And the benefit of that is you don't need to change the way it's run today. You build on the same infrastructure. You just have more effective components.
Yeah,
The
basically that would
downside,
reduce the need for more data centers, right? Because you could have, with the same footprint,
exactly.
physically, you can get more out of it, right? So I think that will be definitely a welcome,
Yes,
change and
absolutely.
improvements, and I think it will naturally happen, right?
Yeah, to some extent, because that's the two downsides. One is the demand for AI is growing faster than the efficiency gain from these new chips. So, it's never catching up. And, the more efficient you are, the more there could be demand from consumption. So you gain efficiency, but actually maybe it's cheaper and more people have access. So at the end, those gains are not going to cut the deal, because still the demand will be higher. And this is not a solution that is solving the problem. It's gaining efficiency, but not enough. But still good to take, right?
Yep.
Another one is to think about, the water consumption, that there may be smarter ways to cool the facility. So instead of cooling the building, I'm making it very simplistic, you are actually cooling the components. So, you basically the water you use is much more limited, and reducing the need and the waste. So I mean, this is definitely a reasonable solution in terms of replacing or the system, or being more efficient in terms of water consumption.
Yeah, I think this one's an interesting one, right? If you can really achieve a closed system that circulates cooling agent, water, whatever the case may be, right? And you don't need to, use it and dispose of it, basically.
Yes. And I haven't put it here, but in terms of water usage, there are also some countries where the hot water is used for house heating and public use. So there is a way, to recycle. I mean, this hot water could be used for the benefit of other people or other usage. So there is a virtuous circle that could be implemented as well.
Nice, yeah.
Okay, so another idea is let's put the data centers to areas where it's cool, like Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Northern Canada. Actually, it seems that those countries are, as we saw already, are building this infrastructure. So where it's cool, it's maybe less need for water cooling systems. So that's the pros. That now the cons is that this is a bit of remote areas, so not so easy. How do you connect to those remote places? Maybe the infrastructure is not there, and still, I mean, locally these places are cool for a reason. So if you bring some hot water in those places, there could be some environmental impact. So, maybe not the
heating up
perfect
the
solution.
cold places now too.
Yes, exactly. So, I think this would be a really short-term solution. Not talking so much about water, but about electricity. And this made the buzz in France. When was it? Like a month ago? Yeah, exactly. May 31st. There was a lot of press coverage about SoftBank, from Japan, that was going to open data centers in France. So the president was very proud, saying, "Oh, we are bringing investments." But actually, the true reason, I believe, was that because France has, vast majority of its electricity is produced by nuclear sources, and it's carbon neutral. So that was
And
the
it's
main
cost
reason.
effective, right?
Yeah, it was not about creating employment in France or whatever. It was really saying, okay, at least the electricity is there, it's carbon neutral, and it's a stable environment. So And yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention is this is not a new idea, because we've seen that Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and the others are actually investing or willing, I don't know, to invest in small nuclear reactors to secure their power supply. But as we know, you don't build a nuclear power plant overnight. You need approval. It's very capital intensive, and some public or might oppose to building nuclear power plants. So again, electricity, carbon neutral, this is good, but there is but.
Yeah, complex topic for sure.
Yeah. So now I'm moving a bit, further in terms of accessibility, feasibility. We've seen those experiments about underwater data centers. So again, we are displacing the problem. We don't want those hot and water producing facilities in our backyard. So let's put them in the ocean. So in terms of technical, this is good because it's cooling, and you can put them not too far from the coast. As we saw, there is high demand, but obviously it's underwater, saline water, so it could have some risk of maintenance, and again maybe it's going to impact the marine environment, because you are heating those places that are already naturally heating with climate change. So maybe not the best solution for the environment. And going even further, we
like
heard about yes, putting data centers in space. Because they can use solar panels, they don't use land, they are not close to local population, etc. I think what is interesting is that this is based on the idea that the space is cool, which is not what I hear is not always the case. It doesn't mean that because you put it in the sky that it's cooler than on Earth, but to be checked. Obviously, this is probably a long way to go, because I'm not sure we are ready to do that. There are a lot of questions to be solved in terms of connectivity, maintenance, potential risk, etc.
Yeah, this one I was just thinking, if you put a heat generator into space and you don't have any airflow, right? How you dissipate that? I'm not an expert. I was just thinking that we have these the water molecules in the air that transport that heat away, right? And if you don't have any matter around the heat producing items, how that would work. It would have to somehow radiate, right? But again, it would be interesting to learn more about how that actually works in space in a vacuum without matter around it, if you will.
Absolutely. So I just took I picked a few examples of what is on the table or in the air regarding data centers. I think the point is that obviously there is a need to be more efficient in terms of water and electricity, and we are not there yet. So a lot to be monitored in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've mentioned many times, currently technology is moving extremely fast, probably much faster than ever in the past. And the usage demand is now driving some of these topics, right? And building out this infrastructure that's been going on for a few years. And I think it's very fascinating. I think sometimes, and I think this is a good example, right? On these topics which are burning immediate needs, and they're huge and they're all encompassing, but I think we forget that if you look back in history, right, the first computers from back in the day, they were as big as a house. And now, we have a mobile device that's 1,000,000 times more powerful that fits into a pocket. And I think the same thing will also happen to data centers, right? The footprint will just continue to shrink. It will become more powerful, and who knows? I think at some point in the future, we'll also see AI capabilities that we have in big data centers today. They'll just live in our pocket, in our mobile devices, and that aspect will probably go away. I think maybe not even too far in the future.
Yeah, that I think that was going to be my last comment, is that I think in our case, I mean, if you compare with the computer, I don't think we have the luxury to wait 50 years until we solve this problem. So
Right.
the demand or the need to be more efficient is very pressing, and maybe this time the technology is going to take a bit longer than what we would like, and we have to see how this plays out.
Yeah, and I think the financial benefits from it, from the beneficiaries, right, are not helping in slowing that down, right? Because there's this demand, there's money to be made, a lot of it, and if that were to be delayed, right, all that capital investment will be deferred from a benefit perspective to a later time, right? And that's why I think this rapid pace right now to leverage that growth curve right now of AI, and not losing out on that, right? So there's for these businesses that depend on, there's a lot of urgency in moving quickly before they miss the boat.
So Dominik, maybe what are the 2 or 3 things that a business manager, general manager should look at when thinking about this issue of data centers?
Yeah, it does look like it's a topic that is far away from everyday business almost, right? But I think there's still some aspects that could be interesting for business leaders to keep an eye on. I think number one in my mind is the fact that AI as a service is not free, right? And I think this data center topic highlights that. We typically work, with businesses on managing their cost in software licenses and other spending in digital capabilities and transformation. And right now, the AI topic has been somewhat of a free for all, right? It's just all in without much regard of cost, and just to figure out what it can do, right? But I think it's important to also keep an eye on that, right? There's a cost associated to the business, to the community, to the environment, and looking at it holistically, right, of what that means. I think it's important for businesses to consider that. And I think the other aspect is, and like we said, the technology is moving extremely fast. This is in the news right now. It's evolving. Next week there might be something else in the news, right? And I think it's good to keep an eye on these developments and continue to be in touch and understand, and maybe also ask someone for help, right? Of what all of this means to the business environment, right? To take advantage of these opportunities and to help grow businesses and do it sustainably.
Super. Thank you so much, Dominik, for the discussion. It was quite exciting about that topic. And
yeah,
happy
thanks.
50, since it's our 50th.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, great. Thank you for preparing that. A very interesting topic right now. And thanks everyone for watching our episode number 50. And we'll continue on with 51 next. See you next time.